All right. Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar focusing on the importance of security awareness training and phishing today. My name is Andrew and I'm from Phin Security. The focus of today's presentation is to be informative. So we encourage to ask any questions that you have and drop them in the Q&A chat. There will also be a dedicated time at the end of today's webinar to function as a Q&A session. So without further ado, let's get started. So wanted to quickly just run through the agenda for today, what we want to be talking about when it comes to security awareness training and phishing today. So I want to spend some time going over what is cybersecurity from a broad perspective, why is it important, what phishing looked like yesterday and what it kind of looks like today, and then a modern approach to security awareness training and kind of also what that looks like today. So we hear cybersecurity a lot, whether it's from our IT provider, our MSP, whatever it may be, right, in the news. And, oftentimes, I feel like not everyone has a good grasp on the exact definition of what that is. So, we have here the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from malicious attacks. And I think the important thing to remember here is that it's not just about the software and the tools, it's about bringing awareness to the people using those tools. Big differentiator there. We can have all the applications in the world, but as you'll see as we go through this, presentation, that you can have as much, cybersecurity defense as possible, but the people driving that, not only from an IT perspective, but just a user perspective, are extremely important for this. So in terms of why it's important, kind of like I mentioned, we're seeing an increasing amount of sophistication in cyber attacks, right? All sorts of different phishing attempts and ways that people, hackers are trying to attack from a malicious perspective and trying to go after, many people's data. And one of the additional reasons for that is because we have so much data and sensitive data stored online, whether it's in a cloud environment or something similar. We have lots of that data, protected, but all it takes is one breach for that data to be compromised. So we'll talk a little bit about how to prevent that and what that looks like from a security awareness training and phishing perspective. And then we have things like increased connectivity of devices on public Wi-Fi, and I think just lack of cyber awareness, right? Like, when we're talking about people in a workplace, I think it's important to raise that what we call cybersecurity IQ, and you'll hear me say that a few times during this presentation. So I think when talking about yesterday's outdated cybersecurity practices, I think the idea of cybersecurity, keeping your applications, keeping your data safe has oftentimes been, I'm not in IT, let the IT department handle it, right? That's not my responsibility. My computer's protected, so I'm protected. And as long as I don't leave my laptop open or download anything, I'll be fine, right? And so it's becoming, that mindset has become an issue, honestly, for, many companies out there, large and small. So we're trying to have a more modern approach to, keeping that data safe that, many hackers are going after. And so we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that just as we go. But for now, have you ever asked yourself, should I click on this? And I think everyone here has, right? It comes up on a daily basis, right? Whether that's something you get in your email, text messages, we'll talk about all that. The goal with security awareness training is to help you answer that question and answer it confidently too. And so, that's, super important in terms of, having that good cyber hygiene that you'll see. So why is SAT important then, right? Like we've talked about cybersecurity. I think the goal is education, really, in a lot of aspects. It's to raise your cybersecurity IQ, to have a really good, mind frame of what to expect, what hackers are trying to do, and really just get inside the mind of, a malicious attack and what it's trying to do. And ultimately just to help keep your data safe. Again, we've had, lots of companies have cloud migrations, lots of sensitive data in the cloud. So keeping that safe is essential, for your personal information, work information, and then the company's information as well. And realistically, you and your company might have compliance requirements. You might need it for cyber insurances. So those are very relevant factors in terms of, why you might encounter security awareness training. And, in addition to that, we have a bunch of stats here, right? I won't go through all of them, but, if you look at it, those can be kind of scary figures. I mean, there's a lot of, attacks happening on a regular basis. And I think the important thing to remember here is that, again, you can have all the applications, but at times people can be the weak spot that attackers take advantage of. I mean, all it takes is one phishing email, one malicious attack to really do a lot of damage. And I think the thing to remember is it's not just the big companies that cyber criminals are going after. The big ones are just the ones making the news, whether it's MGM or another one. But attacks on smaller businesses are really on the rise, and certain types of attacks like phishing are much more commonly aimed at small businesses, which, by the way, are much more likely to go out of business after a cyber attack, a big cyber attack. So all really important stuff here. So it's really important to have that good cyber hygiene and cybersecurity IQ. So I wanted to quickly go through kind of an example of what phishing used to look like. And I think everyone's familiar with this type of example, right? I'll just quickly read it and then talk about it briefly. So we have a message from Arthur, and he says, "I'm writing this message to you with sadness. I traveled to London for a short vacation, and unfortunately, I was mugged. All of my credit cards, cash, and cell phone were taken. I've gone to the embassy, but help will be weeks away, and my flight leaves in 8 hours. Can you loan me $2,000 so that I can make my flight?" So again, what we have here, we have, it's kind of random, right? Someone's in trouble, they're, vulnerable, they're making you vulnerable. It's emotional, right? Help will be weeks away, and urgent. It's time bound. My flight leaves in 8 hours. So it's making you feel emotions. It's wanting you to act before you think, and making you feel bad for the situation. So I think we've all been taught to look for these more obvious phishing attacks, right? But I wanted to see if the audience here can spot a phish. So I invite the audience, if you have your phone handy, go ahead and scan this QR code. It'll take you to a quiz that actually comes from Google, and it's 8 examples of an email, and you have to decide if it's phishing or if it's legitimate. So I'll take a few minutes here. I'll go off camera, about 2, 3, 4 minutes, something like that. And then I'm curious to see how that went. So take a few minutes and kind of go over that, and then I'll talk about it once we come back. All right. So if you're still working on that, no worries. I'll kind of keep going on here, but I'm curious as to how that went. I know as far as us at Phin Security, we work a lot in this space and work a lot with phishing email simulations on a day-to-day basis, which I'll talk about in a second. And I know that not everyone on our team got all 100% correct. It can be very difficult to tell, right? Hackers are cleaning up spelling errors and really making it hard to tell. And so ones that are phishing emails are starting to get harder and harder to tell. But there's many things to look for. We'll talk about a few of those today, but I think that's a good, I guess, point of security awareness training is how to be able to tell that, right? So I won't spend too much time here, but I just wanted to quickly go over the types of phishing that are prevalent in today's environment. So of course we have email, and we just saw that in terms of examples of phishing emails. That's very common. In terms of spear phishing, same type of idea, but instead it's going to be a little bit more targeted. Smishing or text phishing, that's going to be the use of a phone, an SMS message that has a malicious link in it. And then QR code phishing, same idea, except you're scanning a QR code, which really is just a picture of a link to a website, right? And so I'll talk briefly about each one as we go here. So phishing email, right? Most common type of attack, like I mentioned, an email appears to be from a legitimate source. And there's always some sort of call to action, whether it's, download this attachment, a clickable link, and it's not always right away, right? It could be the second or third reply if you're replying to this person, which you shouldn't be, of course, right? But at some point it's coming, whether it's in the first email or later on. And spear phishing is kind of the same idea, only difference being it's more targeted. And we have research being done on whoever the recipient of the email is. And oftentimes personal information is being referenced. And it's not always coming from some secure database, right? This personal information. Oftentimes it's the hacker just going to Facebook, seeing, what school you attended, when is your birthday, who's in your family, right? Where you located. And so they'll utilize this information to seem more legitimate, to gain more credibility. So you're more likely to interact with them or download something or click a link of some sort. Then we have smishing or text phishing, and like I mentioned, it's the same idea, but it's done over SMS, rather than email. It contains a link, call to action, asks you to do something. Again, we've all gotten the go get gift cards ones, but again, they're getting more and more complicated and targeted as they go. And same with spear phishing. They often pretend to be someone a family member, a coworker. Everyone here at Phin Security actually receives a smishing text phishing message from our CEO, Connor. So it's kind of ironic, the fact that we are a security awareness training company, but people know that, people want to exploit that, and so it can be very targeted at times. And then QR code phishing. And so this is probably one of the more modern approaches to phishing that we've seen a lot. And, it's just scanning a malicious QR code that seems legitimate and it takes you to a malicious website. And so it can really be posted anywhere in public, email, text, social media. And so I think the example that I always like to share that we've seen at Phin Security is when you're in an urban environment and you're paying for public parking in a public parking lot, and oftentimes you have to, go to the front and scan a QR code to pay for your parking, right? Enter in your credit card information. Well, hackers will oftentimes, at times, put their QR code stickered over the legitimate ones. So instead, your QR code and scanning the fraudulent or malicious link and typing in your information, your credit card in a non-legitimate website. And then on top of that, you're probably getting towed or ticketed or booted or whatever it is for parking, because you're not paying for parking either. So kind of a double-edged whammy, but something that sticks with me, right? And that, I think a lot of people will remember to think twice about stuff like that. So just an example of things to look out for, and an example that hackers are just getting more and more creative when it comes to that sort of thing. So moving on to the training side of things. So we talked about what phishing emails look like. When we talk about, how companies like Phin, like other companies, administer training, what did that used to look like? And I think everyone's pretty familiar with that. It used to be a long day of training, usually 8 straight hours, maybe a lunch, hopefully in there, I would think. And then it's forgotten about because it's our brains don't work that way. We don't have 8 hours of uninterrupted attention span, especially for something that is not probably going to be super engaging, right? And we have security awareness posters in an office environment. They're posted, they might be overlooked. Oftentimes they might be, just decor on the wall, whatever it is. And then we have same idea, especially for a virtual environment, but security awareness emails. And same thing, they're often overlooked. They're a long email and probably not read too often, maybe skimmed, if anything. So, this idea, these methods are relatively, they're not engaging. They're, oftentimes they could be not relevant, uninspiring, and not very interactive. And I think that's the problem. And that's been the problem for security awareness training, and why it doesn't really help with, changing your behaviors, which is a big part of, raising that cybersecurity IQ. And so I think the goal of Phin, as well as many others, is just to combat those challenges, right? To make it more of an engaging and interactive process, and something that can even be fun at times, right? Short. Like I said, our attention spans, we want to watch, a 5 to 10 minute video, move on with our day. And so I think, you'll see that more and more, that this is administered regularly in a shorter time span, but over a longer period of time. So it's not just annually 8 hours, it's maybe once a month for 5 minutes. And so, and with that, it's effective. It just gets the point across. You can move on with your day. It gives real life scenarios. It can be meaningful. It can be eye-opening. Like I said, for me, that QR code example was eye-opening for me. I'm never going to forget that the next time I'm in that situation. So it gives you something to think about going forward. So at Phin, I'll talk a little bit about the approaches that we use to drive cybersecurity awareness, right? We use a variety of templates for our phishing simulated emails. So we'll simulate emails, that users, maybe yourself, would receive in terms of a, just what looks like a normal email, but it's actually a phishing simulated email generated by us. And so these are meant to look realistic. They make you think. They're familiar brands at times. You can see Google here. And they're always like meant to look like a little bit off at times, if possible. Some are, some aren't, because that's really how it is in real life, right? Like some people, some hackers might, create this email and they might forget to remove hi first name, as you can see in that email, or maybe not care because they're phishing millions of people and they hope that if 3 or 4 click it, it'll be worth their investment and their time. So, that's not a mistake seeing that hi first name there. We're trying to simulate what actually happens in the world. So, like I said, realistic, familiar brands. They can be targeted as well. They can be someone like I mentioned, our CEO on an employee's first day will reach out. So, we're trying to emulate that. This is an example of another familiar app in Slack. So oftentimes that's probably what you encounter. I will say the Amazon track your order gets a ton of people to fall for it, because who doesn't have an outstanding Amazon order, especially this time of year in December? People are always, just clicking first without thinking. Our goal is to, think and then click, right? So, and so you might be wondering, like, what happens if you actually click on one of these phishing simulated emails? Well, again, our goal is not to punish. We want to educate as best we can, help change behaviors, right? I think that's our goal, and that works. And I think a lot of people are like, oh man, if I click this phishing simulated email, I'm going to get assigned like an 8-hour training video that I don't want to do, right? That is not what's going to happen. So if you click on a phishing email, this is exactly what you might see. It says, oh, good things. This was a phishing test. It takes you to the learning moment. And it shows exactly what to look for next time so you don't get phished again with this specific email. So it's relevant. It's, what you could have done differently, again, with this specific email. just to, try and change your behavior and think about that before you, click on that. So again, it's a matter of minutes. There's usually only like 3 to 5 prompts, and you just click through them. And oftentimes, what is it, right? I think there's things to look for, like spelling errors, things like that. But then also, more than that, if you hover over a link, it'll see where it takes you without clicking it. You look at who it's from, or otherwise known as the sending domain, right? Like that can look a little bit off, and even images, right? And so those are just a few examples, but the learning environment and learning moments really do a good job in trying to show that in an example. And so again, this is an example of what that looks like. You can just click through the prompts and be taken to the end, and just really move on with the rest of your day. And I think that's the goal that everyone has. Okay, so in terms of training, so we've seen phishing, simulated emails. That's a huge part of what we're trying to do, what other companies do as well. We have the traditional training side, right? I mentioned these are very short. You might see an email like this come through. That's a training reminder. You just click to view to access your training. It's very straightforward and easy. You don't need to remember another login. Actually, that's the cool thing about what we do, is it's just tied to your email. You just bookmark the page or save the email in a folder or something. And you can see everything that's been assigned to you. It literally is this straightforward. Everything assigned to you, completed, and then all of it. And the cool thing is most of it is 5 minutes or less, followed by a few questions, just to see that you understand what you watched, right? I think that's pretty straightforward. 90% of our training is 5 minutes or less. I think 8% are 10 minutes, and then I think 2% are 20 to 40 minutes, and that's more for like HIPAA training, GDPR, things that have more requirements. But 90% is 5 minutes and under, and that's usually pretty popular with people. So the cool thing is we keep it engaging, we keep it light, we curate from a bunch of different content providers that you can see there, and a bunch of different styles. We have live action, animated, lecture, whiteboard style. And so that's the cool thing, is we try and keep it fresh and exciting. That's the goal. I think that's the way that people learn, is that, short, to the point, and engaging, right? And so, that's really what we try and do with Phin. So if you're a decision maker, this is kind of more for you in terms of the reporting section. I'll just quickly kind of gloss over it. But in terms of reporting, we have high-level summaries that can be issued. And with any of this, work with your IT provider or your managed service provider on any of this. They have a good handle on, what they can deliver through us, through Phin, and to you and your company. So, we have, high-level summaries. We have options to, highlight users to watch, which if you're watching this and you're a user, you don't want to be on this table. It's people who have either clicked on several phishing emails or have not done their training. So it's kind of like the troubled users list that we have here. So definitely something that you want to avoid being on. And then just historical data, right? For, all of the users, all the people at your company that your managers can see. And so those are just 3 of the many elements that are all encompassing of reporting. But just a quick little snapshot there of reporting. So I know I kind of went fast on a lot of that, but we'll have time to go over anything else at the end. So the last thing, though, that I came prepared with, and I want to leave you with, and I've kind of been alluding to this up until this point, is security awareness training, SAT, can really be compared to securing your house. You can build the strongest house, the best locks, the fanciest security system, but if someone props a door open, a thief can get in. And it's no different in the everyday workplace with hackers, with security awareness training. You could have, all these applications and software that is going to prevent malicious attacks. But really, if a phish gets through and you click on it, it's kind of all for nothing. And so that's the main thing to remember, is it's people driven. Again, the idea that, well, I'm not in IT, so nothing I can do will, allow a hacker in. Well, it's quite the opposite. That's usually how it happens. And so, just something to keep in mind is that it takes a village, as cliche as it is, it always does. So, That is all I have prepared today. So, just kind of like a last thought. And actually, before I get to that, if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in either the chat or the Q&A chat. Happy to answer those. But, I think the main thing is I think it's important for employees to take it upon themselves to, just have that education. Again, work with your IT service provider, your managed service provider on, having that security awareness training, having that phishing education, and really just take advantage of that because, like I said, it can be eye-opening. I know it's hard to, have that engagement from something that can be dull at times, but I think that's the goal. And that's what so many hardworking people, both at Phin and everywhere else, are really trying to bring to light, is that this is a really important issue. It can cause a lot, damages to companies, to individuals. And we're trying to, shed light on the issue and how to prevent it, any problems from happening in terms of hackers coming in, taking data in a malicious way. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I will assume that there are none for now. But again, just wanted to thank everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. And then again, if you have any questions, I feel like I could talk about this topic all day. So feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Phin Security, your IT provider, and just have the conversation, right? It can be a huge difference in, preventing malicious attacks and keeping your data safe and keeping everyone happy too. So yeah, with that, I'll sign off. But again, thanks everyone so much for attending, and have a great rest of your day and rest of your week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.